Limit is y goes to 1 of y minus 1 over the square root of y minus 1. Let's start by plugging a 1 in for each of the y's. In the numerator, that'll give us a 1 minus 1. In the denominator, that'll give us the square root of 1 minus 1. That will be 1 minus 1 over the square root of 1 is 1 minus 1. 1 minus 1 is 0 in the numerator. 1 minus 1 is 0 in the denominator. We have the 0 over 0 indeterminate form. We do have a root combination here, a root involving the variable y in some way, added or subtracted together with at least one other term. That's happening in the denominator here. There's your root combination. And we will handle this by multiplying the numerator and denominator by the root conjugate, a form of 1. The root conjugate will be the same root combination, root y, with a 1, but opposite sign between them, so it'll be a root y plus a 1. We'll put it in the numerator as well so that we have a form of 1. We're not changing the value, just a look of the numerator and denominator. Now when you have a root conjugate, you want to FOIL out the root conjugate pairs. You do not want to FOIL out what are not conjugate pairs. That's in the numerator here, y minus 1 and root y plus 1. You're going to want to leave them factored, but we will FOIL at the root conjugate pair. First, root y times root y is y. Outside, root y times a 1 is a positive root y. Inside, negative 1 times root y is a negative root y. And last, negative 1 times a positive 1 is a negative 1. The outside and inside terms always cancel when you have a root conjugate, so we'll go ahead and cancel those out. At this point, it should turn into one of the other methods for the 0 over 0 indeterminate form. Quite often it turns into power functions, in which case we look to factor and cancel. We actually have a y minus 1 that can cancel now. That is what is making 0 over 0 here. So those are able to cancel out, which would leave us with a 1 in the denominator, or just root y plus 1. At this point, we no longer have 0 over 0. We can plug the y in as a 1, and we have the square root of 1 plus 1, which is 1 plus 1, which comes out to a 2.